Decide, commit, act, succeed, repeat.
If you want to be an impactful personality, you have to develop certain types of thinking and perceptions that change the way you see yourself and see the world.
No matter what you want to do in life, no matter what your ambition is, that your dreams can come true if you persevere, if you work hard, and if you realize that what you might think is impossible is possible in today's world.
But you have to keep yourself focused on whatever your ultimate goal is. There's stumbling blocks all the way. People get laid off, you have a bad game, you get traded from a team that you don't want to be with. But if your goal and your focus remains the same, that hey, this is going to happen, and I know I have the skills and I have the knowledge and I have the instincts to dig myself out of this hole, you will dig yourself out of the hole. You have to control the situation. Don't let the situation control you.
Your life is what you think it should be. That's exactly what you are right now. You are what you thought you should be. And if you don't like who you are, you got to change what you think you should be. What you think is more important than what you do. And so if you want to change, you got to work on this attitude bit.
When you take on a massive change, whether it's trying to diet after a lifetime of being overweight, or maybe running your first race after a lifetime of never ever exercising, or maybe it's starting to date again after you lost your spouse to cancer. When you confront something that's going to require you to change your behavior, you basically come face to face with the gap between who you are right now and the future person you want to be.
So you need to foster the belief in what you are dreaming so that it becomes a reality, which is very different than saying, I don't expect anybody to believe it until I see it. You need people to believe it before they can see it.
Here is how you can assure yourself to enjoy yourself during the process of whatever it is you're trying to achieve. I want you to get this, because it starts as soon as you open up your eyes in the morning or whenever it is that you start the day. As soon as you open up your eyes to greet the day, you enter into consciousness. It is at that moment that your creativity is at its most powerful. Right there and then, you have an opportunity to steer your thoughts and your emotions in the direction that you want them to go, not in the direction that they're telling you to go. In other words, you can literally choose to seize the day, or you can let the day seize you.
Nothing works the first time. When you try something new, it probably won't work.
Every failed experiment is one step closer to success. You've got to take risks. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did.
Every time you lose at something, you're one step closer to winning the next time. The difference between successful people and not successful people, let's call it that way, are people give up. People wake up every morning, have doubt, they have fear, they lose in a Ferrari race or they lose in a race, and then they just give up. The hardest thing in life to learn is to lose. Winning's easy. You win, you're happy, you get a high five, your friends are happy. It's your ability to take a loss, get up the next day, dust yourself off, and keep going.
This isn't about playing basketball like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade. There's guys in the NBA that never gonna play basketball like them. This is about being able to think like a champion, know what goes on in their heads, understand how you can relate it to your business and whatever you do to take yourself to the next level. Remember, the mind controls the body does not control the mind. What makes these guys special and successful in everything they do is not their physical gifts, it's their mental toughness. They have the ability not to think when everyone else is thinking.
So what I want you to do, as soon as you open up your eyes to start the day, is to immediately start focusing on something or someone that you are totally grateful for in your life. I don't care what it is or who it is, but I want you to feel it with your heart and soul. Your only goal as soon as you open up your eyes should be to make yourself feel good and to give yourself enough confidence to get through the day. Don't worry about what needs to be done. Think about who you have to be in order to get it done.
I believe the emotions that many of us consider negative, like frustration and rejection and pain, can be our greatest friends because they can drive us to success. You know what? I think one of the things that happens for a lot of people when they get successful is they get superstitious. It's like they work so hard for the success and they now finally have it, so all of a sudden they don't change, they don't vary their behavior, they kind of like want to stay the way things are. They get incredibly conservative and they miss out on the juice of life. Stay out of the trap. Listen, when people succeed, they tend to party. When they fail, they tend to ponder. Now, the pondering, many times we create our greatest successes in life. Just remember, it's impossible to fail. If you try something and it doesn't work, just try something else and learn something from what you just did. As long as you learn something, you've succeeded. Start with something small if you want, and then build. But right now, write down 2 decisions you've made, and then take action on them immediately. I mean, right now. I mean, even before I finish talking here, stop the tape, pick up the phone, and make that call you've been waiting for. Do not put it off another minute. I don't care what it takes. There's power in momentum. I'm a big believer that once you set a goal, once you make a decision, you should immediately, in that moment, do something to start making progress towards it. That way you can't cop out later on or get caught up or lose your momentum. So please do it now. And I know not all things can be done right now, so maybe it's something you have to do tomorrow morning. But whatever you're going to do, make the decision and then commit to follow through and then check in tomorrow. Because this is the first step to grabbing your personal power.
Remember this. So you got to get out there. You got to give it everything you got, whether it's your time, your talent, your prayers, or your treasures.
It's the one thing that we all have, the mind, right? But it's the one thing that we don't have a manual for. We buy a blender, we get a manual. Our iPhone comes with a manual. We get a car and it has a manual. Nobody teaches you how to use the mind. There's no manual for the mind. So this, I think, is one of the most essential things in making progress in our life, is really understanding how our mind works. It's the one thing that we have to live with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have no choice. Imagine if most of you slept 8 hours a day, which most of you don't. You slept and you were awake 16 hours a day. In the 16 hours you practice your awareness just randomly moving from one thing to another, to another, to another. All day practice being distracted. What would you be good at after 6 months? You did the 16 hours a day, you just allow your awareness to jump from one thing to another to another. I'll tweet right now, I'll switch to text messaging, then I'll go to email. Oh, my phone's ringing, so I'll answer the phone. And then somebody's speaking to me, so I'll have 2 conversations at one time. And I'll just do this 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you get it being good at distracted. After 1 year, you're an expert at being distracted. After a year and a half, they'll invite you to give keynote talks on being distracted. You're so good, you practice 16 hours a day. So the same works for the opposite. If you practice being concentrated 16 hours a day, what would you become good at? You become good at concentrating. And all it takes is practice. By just doing one thing at a time. Keeping your awareness on one thing at a time. And you integrate this into everything that you do in your life. So the best way to do it is pick a few opportunities in your everyday life. For example, we all speak with people. When I speak with somebody, I give them my undivided attention. I keep my awareness on them, and the conversation is really brief. Why? Because we're concentrated. We're not being distracted. A 10-minute conversation normally just takes 3 minutes because you're just so focused. I define concentration as the ability to keep that awareness on one thing for a prolonged period of time. So if I can keep my awareness on Eric and not drift away and think about the wedding, or drift away and think about the vacation, or what I'm going to do later, then I'm concentrating on Eric. Every time it drifts away, I bring it back, And the more I practice this, the more I practice concentration. So concentration is the ability to keep your awareness on one thing for a prolonged period of time. And that's a very simple definition of concentration. How do you get better at concentration? You practice this. You practice this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's the only way to get good at it. And what's the best way to practice it? The best way to practice it is to integrate it into everything that you do in your life. Not to meditate 10 minutes in the morning. It doesn't work. You really need to look at your life the same way a sprinter in the Olympics looks at his life. You've all heard of Usain Bolt, the man that won the gold medal twice, 2 Olympics in a row, broke the world record. I don't know anything about him, to be honest. But if I was looked at him, he obviously sprints, he practices running, probably does a lot of long distance, he probably does a lot of stretching as well, I'm sure he gets massages. He looks like he eats the right kind of food. Drinks the right amount of water, takes vitamins. His whole day is so disciplined. For what? To prepare him for 9.57 seconds. I think that's what the world record is, right? For 100 meters, 9.5 or 9.57 seconds. His whole day is preparing him for that short time, not the other way around. A lot of people say, you know what, I need to be more concentrated. So you know what, I'm going to meditate in the morning, I'll sit down for 2 minutes. Okay, now I'm Zen master. And the remaining 23 hours and 58 minutes, they just go about being ordinary and crazy. How does that work? How would you change? It's not balanced at all. So if for 23 hours and 58 minutes you were not being concentrated, you allowed your awareness to jump from one thing in your mind to another thing, to another thing, to another thing, to another thing, in an uncontrolled way, what would you be good at? And out of a prolonged concentration comes the wonderful power of observation. You just become more observant, and when you become more observant, you see solutions quicker and you solve things quicker. And it's a wonderful, powerful feeling when somebody is concentrated on you and not being distracted. So the best way is to integrate it into your everyday life. You're speaking with your spouse, give her or give him your undivided attention. So develop your awareness, integrate it into everything that you do in your life. And that's the best way you become good at. The next thing we need to develop is develop your will. Will is really important. Will is almost like a muscle in your mind, and you use that to pull and control your awareness and take it from one area of the mind to another. And the will needs to be developed, and same like concentration, if you don't cultivate the will, it doesn't grow. And this is something that really needs to be cultivated. How do you develop the will? There's 3 very simple ways to develop the will. 1 is you finish what you begin. 2 is you finish it well beyond your expectation, no matter how long it takes. 3 is you do a little bit more than you think you can do. All of those things require effort, and effort is will. It's so much easier to start a project than to finish a project, right? When you start a project, you're feeling creative, you're feeling inspired, you're full of energy. At the end of the project, you go, whose idea was this? So it requires tremendous amount of will to finish, and every time you complete something, you develop a little bit more will, and you have that muscle. And will is an amazing thing to develop, because once you develop will, that same will you can use in every aspect of your life to keep your awareness on one thing at a time, to finish projects, to see things through to the end, anything you want. The best way to develop will? Bring it into your everyday life, into everything that you do. Give you an example. The way I integrate it into my everyday life, I try and finish what I begin. So for example, going to sleep. I sleep every night, so I put on my pajamas, I floss, I brush my teeth, I go to bed, I sleep, I wake up in the morning, I make the bed. Why? Because I'm finishing what I start.
Fear. It is an unrealistic thing that doesn't exist in the term. Will fear the outcome of the future. Students fear their bad grades, as parents fear for the future of their child. Businessmen fear from the loss of his business, and athletes fear from the failure. But But what I want to ask is, why do you care if you get bad grades? You won't die because of it. Why do you worry about your child? He will fall, but he'll also learn things. Why to fear from the loss of a business? You can learn and double your profits in the next year. And why to fear from the failure if it's just another step towards success? Just a mindset of fear that is pushing you back. It's fear that pulls you towards failure. According to the law of attraction, similar energies attract each other just like a magnet. Negative energy will attract negative outcomes, and positive energy attracts a positive outcome. If you think you might fail, then you will fail. If you think my business might go in a loss, it will go in a loss. As a great saying, what you believe you will achieve. Your belief of failure will make you a failure. Your belief of a loser will make you a loser. It's simply what you think about yourself. People will think the same about you. Your perception of yourself will reflect in your actions. A loser will always behave like a loser, and a leader will always behave like a leader. Now it's up to you. What do you think about yourself? Fear is not a solution to your problems. It's like the cancer that will destroy your inner heart. It will make you a living dead body. Don't think of those things that are not in your hand, and work hard on those things that are in your hand. If you are a student, then work hard and smart for your exams. Give your best in it and forget results, because it's not in your hand. If you are a businessman, then put full efforts to make your business successful, and believe that ultimately your final destination is success. Never afraid of failures, they are just a step for your success. Learn from them and go ahead. Proactive person always gets positive results because he thinks positive. He attracts positive energy. And a reactive person always gets negative results because he thinks negative. He attracts negative energy. And fear is negative energy. We fear because of society pressure. If I fail, people will call me a failure and a loser. It's a fear of people that will destroy us. We eat, sleep, dress, dream what society demands. I don't want to be a doctor because my family hates doctors. But you don't care what you think about that profession. I don't want to be a sports person because here society does not accept them. But you don't care what you think about that profession. I can't wear that dress because my friends will not like it, but you don't care about your likeness. I can't dream that much big because people will laugh at me, and you don't care about your feelings. It's fear that is pushing you back. Just forget what people in society think about you. Do what you love, dream what you're passionate about. Never give up.
You're still here, and you get another chance this day to do better and be better. Another chance to become more of who you were created and what you were created to fulfill.
Everyone in the world is capable of living outside the role or beyond the roles that they place themselves in, no matter what it is. You're not just a dad, you're not just a banker, you're not just a brother or a son or a convict. It doesn't matter. Like, everyone is bigger, much bigger, infinitely bigger than the roles they place themselves in, and is capable of reaching potential greater than anything they could imagine.
You can live the life you desire. It's right there in front of you. But in order to achieve it, you must first see it, then believe it, and then you must graciously ask and train your brain to help you execute your vision.
So when you start to focus and you delete distraction from your life, and you start to get seriously invested in doing one thing staggeringly well, and you practice that one thing over and over, a term to think about is mundanity. You do one simple, seemingly insignificant thing every day around your main skill, and it's very mundane, but small daily improvements over time lead to world-class results. Well, here's what happens in your brain. You start to isolate a single neurocircuit around that skill, and that starts to trigger a certain type of brain cell called an oligodendrocyte, which then releases myelin. Myelin is a fatty tissue that starts to wrap around that single neurocircuit related to that main skill you've been practicing. And when myelin starts to wrap around the brain circuit, what happens is you have accelerated learning times, you can see more quickly, heightened perception, and you'll learn more quickly. And that is really the quote-unquote secret of the great producers. It's not a result of some natural gift, but their daily practice, their relentlessness and their grit, their work ethic, and their singular focus and sacrifice.
A great life is built not by revolution. A great life is built by evolution. Small and steady wins the race. What you do every day is far more important than what you do once every decade. I want you to really think about that idea. What you do every day is simply your life in miniature. And as you live every single day, so you're crafting your life. What you do over the next hours is really building your future. And if you can just get every single pocket of 24 hours right as best as we humanly can, the rest of our life is going to take care of itself. So small wins matter.
The scripture says we will eat the fruit of our words. You are planting seeds when you talk. At some point, you're going to eat that fruit. My challenge is make sure you're planting the right kind of seeds. If you want apples, you have to sow apple seeds. If you want oranges, you can't plant cactus seeds, poison ivy seeds, mushroom seeds. You're going to reap fruit from the exact seeds that you've been sowing. In other words, you can't talk negative and expect to live a positive life. You can't talk defeat and expect to have victory. You can't talk lack, not enough, can't afford it, never get ahead, and expect to have abundance. If you have a poor mouth, you're going to have a poor life. If you don't like what you're seeing, start sowing some different seeds. We may not realize it, but we're always feeding ourselves. What we watch, listen to, the people we're around, the thoughts we're dwelling on, that's feeding our inner man. If you go to lunch with people that talk bad about the boss, make fun of a coworker, put down a friend, they're feeding you gossip, feeding you jealousy, feeding you disrespect. Here's the key. Whatever you feed is going to grow. You may not like what they're feeding you. You're a nice person, but if you continue to hang around them, before long, you'll be gossiping, you'll be critical, you'll be disrespectful. Why? Because you kept feeding the wrong things. If you're always feeding negative thoughts, thinking, I'll never get well, I'll never meet the right person, you're feeding doubt, feeding mediocrity, feeding fear.
If you know exactly what you want to be, you need to spend as much time with people that are actually that already. You cannot let a fear of failure, or a fear of comparison, or a fear of judgment stop you from doing what's going to make you great. You cannot succeed without this risk of failure. You cannot have a voice without the risk of criticism. And you cannot love without the risk of loss. You must go out and you must take these risks.
You don't have the time to waste time, because time doesn't wait till you discover your purpose. If you don't know why you was born, time is still moving. And if you discover your purpose at 90 years old, it's too late.
You don't know how young you are. What if you die in 2 years? You're pretty old right now. You got 2 years left. And if you're 50 years old and you're feeling discouraged, well, remember the advice about planting a tree. When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago or today? So if you're 50 and you feel like life left you behind, well, get started right now. Better late than never. Better late than never. Don't think about time and age so much. It gets people distracted. When the whole world's distracted, you be focused.
You have to trust your own voice, your own ideas, your honesty, your vulnerability, and through this you will find your way. You do not have to be fearless. Just don't let fear stop you. Live like this as best you can, and I guarantee you will look back on a life well lived. You are capable of greatness in your profession, and more importantly, in your quality of self. Stay hungry. Stay young at heart. Take those risks. You are going to change the world around you in big ways and in small.
But see, anybody, if you want to, can go searching for a good plan, pick it, and start working it. And sure enough, as the time passes, as it surely will 5 years from now, 10 years from now, then you'll be winding up wearing what you want to wear, driving what you want to drive, living where you want to live, become what you want to become. But now's the time to fix the next 10 years. And who can? Anybody.
You were created to give life and make a difference with your gift somewhere. That's why you came to this place.
You want to improve? You want to get better? You want to get on a workout program or a clean diet? You want to start a business? You want to write a book or make a movie or build a house or a computer or put together some mobile application? Where do you start? You start right here. And when do you start? You start right now. You initiate the action aggressively. You go.
Start strong, finish strong. Wolf is always scratching. Let's roll. Up at 3:45 a.m., cardio by 4:45 a.m., hitting the iron by 6:15 a.m., in my pickup truck by 7:15 a.m., heading to work, ready to get after it, ready to shoot. There's no substitute for hard work. I'm gonna make something out of myself, and it's gonna be so good, it's bad. Instead of telling you what I think you should be doing, or how you could be better, or I thought, well, let me just speak from the heart, speak from my gut, and really not have anything prepared, but just tell you what's worked for me. And maybe some of the stuff that's worked for me might work for you now, currently, presently, as you guys have your goals and ambitions, but then further on down the line, as you guys continue to live your life. This idea and this notion that you could be anything you want, you can accomplish anything you want, right? We hear that. You've heard that from the time you were little boys. You hear that now. You're already incredibly accomplished. You guys know that. The thing that has worked for me is to remember the hard times. So, and I'm sure you guys all have your processes. And again, I'm going to tell you what's worked for me. So before a big movie comes out, before, back in the days when I was wrestling with WWE, a WrestleMania match, anything big that would happen, I would always take a moment and I'd just remind myself, all right, I was evicted when I was 14. We were kicked off the island. We couldn't live in Hawaii. Had no place to live. A lot of shit happened then when I moved to Nashville. I was arrested multiple times by the time I was 16 years old. I would remember that, and it allows me then to be present in the moment and understand, holy, the stuff I have around me right now, this is the shit that I dreamed of when I was a kid. I am here. I played for University of Miami, played for great teams. Warren Sapp, Ray Lewis, they were my teammates. They were balling. Warren Sapp was playing tight end that time. I was starting defensive tackle. Yeah, they moved him over to D-line. And he looked at me, he's like, yo, dude, I'm gonna take your spot. And I said, you ain't taking my spot. He said, I'm gonna take your spot. I said, no, you ain't. We battled, and he took my spot. Now you can imagine how that with me, because there goes my opportunity. He went in, switched to defensive tackle, lit the world on fire. Well, what that did, it crushed me, it crushed my dreams. I had a piss poor senior year, 0 production, no NFL, no combine invite, nothing. Finally went to the CFL, Calgary Stampeders, making $250 a week Canadian. Now, I had to send that home to my wife at that time. Had no money. So I remember that. When I got cut from Canada, my dad in his pickup truck came down 4 o'clock in the morning, picked me up in Miami from Tampa. We lived in a little apartment in Tampa. He drove down in his little pickup truck to Miami to get me when I was cut from the CFL. And I thought, well, I leave home like you guys left home. I'm ready to tackle the world, to get after it, achieve my dreams and goals. Crushed by 22, 23 years old. Now I gotta move back in with my mom and dad. I played on great teams though. Wait a second, this is not supposed to be my future. I'm supposed to be in the NFL right now. I'm supposed to be making a lot of coin and buying my parents buying me taking care of my wife, but it never happened. So I pulled out my wallet, I thought, well, let me see how much money I have. I opened it up, I had a 5, a 1, and change. Well, at least I rounded up to $7. But I thought, God, ain't this a bitch? I got $7 in my pocket. Where the f do I go now? What do I do? I can't go back to CFL. The point comes where you hear that voice, the big run's over. Like, you're done, right? So I heard that voice. So as Coach was saying, man, I hold on to that. I'm telling you, my back is up against this mother. We laugh, we joke, we have a good time, but my back is still up against this mother. I do not forget it. What this also helps me do, and again, it works for me, is at some point, you gotta be tired of not being number one. You have to be, and you gotta play angry, and I play angry. Now, I'm cool and calm with my approach, and when I step out on my field, which is a set, or, you know, like, there's some, and you're always gonna have haters, and haters are like, well, God damn, man, how many movies are you gonna make, or how much shit are you gonna do? Like, you do a lot of shit. I say, yes, it's my ambition. Of course, why not? I could do it. Yeah, I love what I do. And not only that, but in what world do we not work every day? My back is up against this thing, you know, and I started to play angry, by the way, and I still play angry. My last match, Brock Lesnar, transitioned, and I realized if I had to be great at something, I wanted to be great in this world of Hollywood and movie making and producing and entertainment, I had to commit, and like you guys have to commit. Obviously, you commit to something, commit to the goal. So I quietly retired. 2 years later, I thought, what did I do with my career? Because my movies were not doing well. I was written off. I was like, it was around 2006, 2007. I was like, I left, I pulled a Jim Brown. I left when I was on top, like number one in the wrestling business, and I left. It was a ballsy, gutsy, some call it stupid move, but I had to commit and I had to follow what was in my gut. What helps me is to keep the hard times in the front of my mind, because it allows me to go into these big moments that I've worked my ass off, and you guys have worked your ass off. It allows me to go into these big moments with a different perspective. What it also does for me, and again, this is what works for me. Like, my back is up against this mother. Every day, it's against this wall. But it's up against this mother because it's what I believe in. And when my back is against this mother, then there's nowhere to go. But that way. That's it.